Well, this is John Black, super chemist, JBSC. Almost done with this climate crisis thing. I'm actually done with it. I'm just gonna read over about a couple things real fast that I've already went over. Just like with the second half of these videos, once I finished, I kind of condensed it into the main points that I wanted to get across to people. So let me just do this real quick, and then this is the last. Like this about the climate crisis. This is the longest thing. Like I said, I wanted to talk about 7 different things, and then I'll get into branch out to different stuff. I did this one first because I knew I was going to give you, and this is only 50% of the information I could give you to prove that we need CO2 put into the atmosphere, not the other way around. We need heat. We need to heat the planet up, not the other way around. And carbon dioxide does not make temperature go up. Temperature makes carbon dioxide go up. It's flip-flopped. They're saying it backwards. So I'm going to give you the major points here. But then, like I said, I'm going to move on to something else. Just basically talking about myself, I guess, a little bit to get a break from this. But I wanted to just see that when I'm talking about something, I'm not just pulling stuff out of my ass. I actually went and researched it. I pulled out data. I didn't just pull the data up. I found out who is giving me this data. You know what I mean? Is this all the data, or are they just picking out little pieces of the data and trying to trick me? You know what I mean? That's why it took so long for that. I didn't think it would take this long, though. And this is just like a fraction, half of what I should be telling you, but it's already been like 14 videos. Jesus, I mean, it's getting ridiculous now. So anyways, I'll just go read them real quick in a row so that you can see how crazy it sounds once you hear the facts, like all told you all fast. You know what I mean? Earth temperature is way below room temperature. It's actually 11 degrees below room temperature, and it's 11 degrees above the coldest ice age we've had in the last 600 million years. Okay, 75% of the time, Earth was not in an ice age like now in the last 600 million years. 75% of the time, we have not been in an ice age. 95% of the time in the last 600 million years, we're talking 600 million years here, 95% of the time, the Earth has been warmer than it is now. So it would go all the way back a whole half a billion years, more than a half a billion. 95% of the time, it was warmer than it is now. Or no, I'm sorry. I meant to say that about CO2. 95% of the time, Earth has had more CO2 than it has now. Like in the last couple million years, we've kind of steadied out on the CO2. We have not, 95% of the time, Earth has had more CO2. An interglacial period is a warm part of an ice age, but it is still part of the ice age. And we are in an interglacial period. We are in an ice age until the polar caps melt completely during the summer. And both caps. So we're way in a, we're right in the middle, smack dab of a ice age. 2 of our 7 continents are frozen over solid. 2/7 of our 7 continents are frozen over. And everyone thinks that's great, that half the planet's frozen, or 2/7 of the continents on the planet are frozen over. How does that make sense? How does someone put that through their brain and it comes out their mouth? I don't get it. If our CO2 goes down to 200 parts per million, plants start dying and give very, very poor yields. At 150 parts per million, all plants die. And we are at 400 parts per million. And we have been at the lowest part of our CO2 in like a half a billion years. This is the lowest. We're at a critical point. We need to make some CO2. If anything happens to take out any of our CO2, like a new species or something or anything, we're dead. The planet, humans, human beings are actually saving the planet by making CO2. You're saving the planet. You're not hurting it. You're saving it. And CO2 does not make it hotter, but even if it did, that would be a good thing. That would be a beneficial thing. Plants only get 1/3 of the air they need, 1/3 of the carbon dioxide they need. They want 1,200 parts per million. They get 400 parts per million. 1/3. How would you like it if I put you in a room and I gave you only 1/3 of what you need for oxygen? That your best optimal amount of oxygen, and I just give you 1/3 of it and make you live that way your whole life. Would you like it? Would you say it's great for the planet? 70% of the northern ice caps melt every year, and no one even notices it. But if the last quarter of it melts, we all die in the water inundation. It's just crazy. I want you to think about it. 10% of the Arctic ice has melted permanently, 10% in the last 20 years. 10%. And 10%? That's a lot. But have you noticed the beaches getting smaller? Have you noticed the news saying, over the last 20 years, our beaches used to be 100 feet, wide, and now they're only like 50 feet wide, man, because 10% of the ice caps in the north melted. No, you never do. Every summer when that's 75% of what's left, of the ice caps, what's left today, 75% of that melts every summer. Nobody belts 9. There's no newscast about how the inundation has gone through, taking over the beaches and going to the houses, and you never hear that. But the next quarter, that's the part that will just flood the entire earth like Noah's days, the ark. That doesn't make sense. We have been in the worst ice age in 700 million years. And this ice age we are on in right now, has lasted 50 million years. 50 million years we've been in an ice age. Unreal. Let's see, I'm almost done. Okay. Anyone who, what we should do is all these crazy people, everyone on the planet should have to say what they think the planet Earth's average temperature should be. Because right now it's at 57 degrees, above refrigerator temperature. I think that they should be put in a room that is in that temperature. Like if someone thinks that the temperature Earth should be 57 degrees, they should be forced to live in 57 degree rooms, work in 57 degree offices and factories, and they should never ever be allowed to be in a room that's other than 57 degrees. Because I would choose room temperature, so I would be safe. I would say I think I want the Earth to be room temperature, and then I would live in a room temperature house, since that's what I want for humans. If you want 57 degrees for humans, then you should live in 57 degree temperatures, right? Let's see what else here. Politicians, when I say these people, the Christians and the Republicans, and they obviously didn't look into it, or they would know that you not only have no crisis about putting carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, you actually do have a crisis that there's not enough carbon dioxide in the air, and we need to put some in there. They never say that. That means all these politicians that are Republican and Christian, they didn't look into anything. They're just assuming it. The only reason they disagree is because the woke people say that they don't just say that we got to control our carbon dioxide and make less of it. they say that we need, we're going to die in 5 years. You know what I mean? So that's the only difference between a Republican. They're both idiots. It's just one says, the Republican and the Christian says, oh, we just have to slow down on making CO2. That's all. That means they didn't look at anything. They're just looking into their heart. That's what they feel in their heart. That's what they feel in their heart. A Pastafarian doesn't pass along facts because he feels it in his heart. Okay? 1 degree. They're complaining because they don't want us to go up one more degree in temperature, and they don't want us to go up in any CO2, or we will all die. And because there'll be like a chain reaction. Okay, like once you get so much CO2 in the air, they say it's going to be a chain reaction, and the heat will feed the system. It'll just be a global warming effect, and it'll just get out of control. Well, can I ask you this? And we're only at 57 degrees for the planet, and we're at 400 parts per million. But back in, most of our time on the planet, we have had higher temperatures and CO2. And you might say, well, it wasn't high enough it's higher than it is today. Today's the lowest we've ever had when it comes to temperature and carbon dioxide. But my point is right now we have 400 parts per million. If we look at our thing, we can see that we were at 6,000 parts per million of CO2, and we had been up to 90 degrees Fahrenheit for the average planet temperature. Instead of 57, we went up to 90, and instead of 400, we went up to 6,000 parts per million. If 6,000 parts per million and 90 degrees Fahrenheit didn't freaking get us into this chain reaction, right? It's because it's all about the chain reaction. It's just going to feed on itself, and well, why 6,000 parts per million? That didn't start a chain reaction, but we're down at 400, and they're worried about a couple more going up a little bit. Same with the temperature. We're at 57, and they're worried about going up to 58 when we were at 90 in combination with 6,000 parts per million CO2. That's crazy. And these rich people, they're always telling you, because that's who's pushing this, the WEF, the WHO, and all them people. They're all rich as hell. They got all beachfront properties. Why do they got beachfront properties if in 10 years their mansion, their 10 million, 50 million, $100 million house is going to get flooded in 50 years? Why did they do that? Why do they use private jets all the time, flying around here and there? And they don't seem to care about it, but they want you to use a bicycle. Why do they do that? That doesn't make any sense, does it? They're telling you that the water's going to be inundated by this last quarter of ice that's in the Arctic, even though 3/4 melts every year. They're worried about that last quarter. It's going to inundate the entire planet and flood us all. Why do they say that? The last thing I'm going to say about the subject is about polar bears. They say that we're going to lose the polar bears if we don't have. First of all, it's never going to be that. Even if the polar caps melted at room temperature, like the planet is 68, 70 degrees, the North and South Pole is still going to be cold as heck, man. In the summertime, it's going to be like 35, 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and in the wintertime, it's going to be even colder. So it's not like it's going to be a tropical paradise, and I hope it doesn't get that hot. That's too hot. But looks like I'm running out of time here, so I'll do the polar bears on the next thing. But this is the very, very, very last thing I got to say about polar bears. Global crisis.